Denver Riggleman is a former Republican congressman and a former Air Force intelligence officer. Amy McGrath is a former Marine Corps fighter pilot. Both of them join me now. Denver, the news this morning from NBC News is problematic, troubling, but in many ways not surprising that Ukraine has to give up natural resources, but that's now not enough to get a deal for peace. What's your reaction, sir?
My reaction is always, you're stunned but not surprised. It's the opposite. And I think part of it, too, is why isn't Donald Trump so strident in his negotiating path with Russia? Why does it seem to always be about Zelensky? And we look at what's happened over the last week or two with our withdrawal of intelligence support. It's not just that, right? It's the fact is that we've taken away commercial imagery over there, right? We have issues with that. We're taking away every single step. We're almost stacking our priorities against Ukrainian defense. So it's really that not much of a surprise. Then you have the double whammy, right, Michael, this morning where Elon Musk all of a sudden comes out and says, hey, we need to withdraw from NATO, and Europe needs to take care of their own defense. What are we seeing here? We're seeing messaging that really goes to the heart of the matter, is that this looks like a pro-Russia stance by Trump, especially when you see all of the intelligence apparatus that's been taken away, whether it's Cyber Command, whether it's CIA standing down, whether it's the Pentagon standing down on deprioritization, right? Whether it's CISA being cut, the CISA, all these things seem to point to me, based on negotiating tactics, that Trump likes to be tough on people other than Putin, which leads some to believe in the intelligence community and maybe an analysis like here that maybe he's really not a great actor in this.
Yeah, that's putting it politely, I think. Amy, I think one of the aspects of this that certainly given your training and background has to be very concerning and disturbing is the taking away the ability to do the imagery, to get the access to the information. What does it mean in practical terms for Ukrainian forces to lose access to our intelligence?
Yeah, and make no mistake, there really is no defensive and offensive intelligence. It's just intelligence. Because when you, what you're doing when you take that away is you're taking away the Ukrainians' ability to see and understand the battlefield, to see what's going on. So, for example, Michael, you're taking away their ability to see when the Russians are launching their bombers against the Ukrainians or missiles. You're taking away their ability to target those bombers on the ground. The best way to stop a bomber or a missile coming at you is to hit it before it even launches, right? And so what you're seeing right now is that Donald Trump is trying to tip the scales. When he says to Vladimir Zelensky, hey, you don't have the cards, what he's trying to do is take the cards away. And that's just one piece of that. And it has real effects on the battlefield.
Denver, one of the more damning aspects of this for me is Elon Musk and the role that he's allowed to play. Last night, he issued what seemed like a thinly veiled threat about shutting Starlink off for the Ukrainians. He said, quote, my Starlink system is the backbone of the Ukrainian army. Their entire front line would collapse if I turned it off. I'm going to repeat it again, so everybody can understand with a high degree of clarity. When you say something like that in the position that he's in, and given what we know about his, tech stuff and what he's done, he is every Bond villain rolled up into one. Because when you have that attitude, right, I'm looking for James Bond at this point, right? What do we do? What does that mean? And certainly what does it mean for the Ukrainians that we have one individual who has control over the information links that they're going to need?
Well, what's interesting, Starlink has contracts all over Europe, right, Michael? So if they break this, what happens to some of their other partners, like, say, contracts in Poland? The other thing, too, if he removes Starlink, what happens to things like Eutelsat, right? You have French competitors out there or other types of competitors who's going to fill that void. So now he's got an issue, right? He has a country like Russia that it seems like he's in support of that has a GDP lower than 3 U.S. states. Think about that. California, Texas, and Florida, California, Texas, and New York, with Florida Florida almost as high. So what does he do now, right? So is he going to take Starlink away just to make Trump happy? And what happens if Eutelsat or other companies fill the void? And just as lately as March 4th, Eutelsat was in talks with Ukraine about providing terminals themselves. So here we go, right? So now I think Europe is starting to wake up and say, listen, we can fill some of these technical voids that are happening right now. He can say and he can scream this type of stuff, but even if he loses that, the Ukrainians are not stupid. They're actually brilliant, and they're building redundant systems right now. They're in planning. They're looking at laying fiber. All these things are actually happening. So yes, sadly, Starlink is the best system out there, but there are competitors, and there's a way to jointly combine these communication paths where Ukraine, who are internet agnostic, they can actually do some of these operations. So when I saw this, it looked empty. It looks like messaging that's coming straight from the Trump administration to me.
Interesting. You know, Amy, that what Denver's saying there reminds me, or at least gets me thinking about our partners. What do France and Europe as a whole, the UK, what do they do now to step up to sort of close those gaps, fill in those gaps that could come about from the intelligence side, the information sharing side, if Starlink goes down, or even the intelligence that relationship they have with the U.S. itself. You have them saying, hey, we may not share everything we know now with the U.S. since they seem to be more aligned with Putin than us.
Well, absolutely. Well, number one, the Europeans are going to have to step up. They're going to have to step up with intelligence and also with ammunition, with weapon systems. But beyond that, though, this has real ramifications for American power around the world, because we are not going to, our partners, our allies are looking at us right now and saying, this is not the America that we once knew. This is not the America that we trusted. And we're not going to be able to trust them again. And so, you know, they're not going to share intelligence with us. A lot of what American power around the world is based on is our partnerships. It is our alliances. And Donald Trump right now is hurting that power. He's hurting it for future generations. And that is also what's so scary here.